Fun fact, Auburn is actually terrible. They're garbage. They're gutter trash. I was considering doing something on my channel that was called the Gutter Trash Team of the Week. And I may do that officially. Right now it's unofficial. Of my weekly college football awards, the Gutter Trash Team of the Week would have to go to the Auburn Tigers. Hank Brown played okay against New Mexico, who has a good offense, but the only thing that matters about Hank Brown's performance against New Mexico is the fact that their defense is one of the worst, if not the worst, quoting Bud Elliott on that, in all of college football. And he just played okay against them. He gets the nod. There's tons of pressure from probably fan base boosters from everywhere to start Hank Brown over Peyton Thorne. And they did. They did against Arkansas. And Hank Brown went out there and looked like Davis Warren, John O'Korn, Brian Lewerke when he didn't have a shoulder. I mean, looked like, geez, just like Stetson Bennett in 2020, like a quarterback who does not belong as a Power 4 starter at a program who typically recruits well, who has a history of, having better quarterback play than this, better quarterback play than a 9.5 QBR, than 7 of 13 for 72 yards, 5.5 yards per pass attempt, and three interceptions. Again, Hugh Freeze and Auburn are an absolute mess right now. I cannot state that at all. And typically on college football with Sam, we cover the Big Ten. But we go outside the Big Ten to cover either stories that are trending or really good teams or really bad teams. Auburn's at the latter end of the spectrum. This is not a good football team. I mean, one of their other losses outside of the 24-14 loss to Arkansas was to Cal. And Cal just lost to Florida State by a score of 14-9. Pretty ugly performance. I know Florida State's defense is probably the best it's been all season, but it's still not good. Their offense is still putrid. Auburn had turnover issues that motivated their move to Hank Brown at quarterback against Cal. And in his 2 starts, Hank Brown, freshman at Auburn, he has 4 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. He is 24 of 38 for a little over 300 yards. And it shows that New Mexico is one of the worst defenses in all of the country and that Arkansas actually has some players. Arkansas had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 4 total interceptions. The one that Peyton Thorne threw was not on him. It was the receiver didn't catch it. Maybe it could have been a little more in the breadbasket, but as a receiver, you got to make that catch. Auburn's defense, 3 sacks, 7 TFLs. They picked off Taylon Green twice, but Arkansas ran for 183 yards, 3.3 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, and Auburn lost the turnover battle 5-2 because they had a fumble. And Arkansas dominated TOP. They had 36 minutes and 36 seconds of possession. So it didn't matter that Auburn outgained them 97 yards. Because they had 4 fewer first downs. They relied on a big play from Keandre Lambert-Smith on a 4th down and 3 from their own territory to even make it a game. Lambert-Smith led their team by a mile in receiving yards, 5 receptions, 156 receiving yards. He averaged 31.2 yards per reception, and he had 2 receiving touchdowns with a long of 67, a 67-yard pass from Thorne, and then one that I believe was around 40-50 yards earlier in the game. I don't know what's going on Auburn because I follow the Big Ten more than the SEC. So if you're an Auburn fan, an SEC fan, or someone who's followed the Tigers more closely than I have, please let me know in the comments section what you think is going on. But this, to me, it's craziness is what it is. I thought that they would take steps forward, and as of right now, losing to Arkansas, who is a much better offense than they did last year, and probably a better defense, but still, they're not good. They're certainly not great, not elite. I mean, this coming weekend, Auburn plays Oklahoma, a team who has an elite defense, a better defense than Auburn. Offensively, I don't know who's better between those two teams. They're both awful offensively. And then, after Oklahoma, on week 5, the 28th, they have to play Georgia on the road, blowout. They get a bye and then have to play Missouri on the road. Maybe winnable if Missouri struggles continue, but Missouri is a high-octane offense, and they have a really legitimate defensive line. Probably a loss being that it's on the road. Kentucky on the road, October 26th. It's no longer an automatic win. Vanderbilt at home, November 2nd. Not an automatic win with Diego Pavia and Jerry Kill, who has just honestly helped that program in so many ways for being an analyst there. UL Monroe, November 16th, is probably the only guaranteed win at this point. And then Texas A&M at home, November 23rd. Probably could be a competitive game like with Kentucky on the road, Oklahoma at home, but not a guaranteed win. And then Alabama on the road. Hugh Freeze, especially factoring in what he's done against Alabama last year and with his history at Ole Miss, he'll probably bring his team's A-plus game against Alabama. And Alabama is not the deepest team in the world. They're an elite team, but out of all the elite teams, they probably have some of the more questionable depth, particularly on the trenches. So that could be close, and it's a rivalry, but you'd chalk that up as a loss with it being in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and the fact that Alabama through 4 weeks has looked miles ahead of what Auburn is. This team could easily finish with a losing record. And at that point, then they fulfill my opinion of them right now, that they are a horror story. A 4-8 Auburn, a 5-7 Auburn, a 3-9 Auburn, although I think 3-9's too extreme. 4-8's even a little bit edgy. I think 5-7's probably the most realistic. Maybe 4-8, maybe 6-6, somewhere in that range. That would be a horror story. No improvement from last year. If anything, the team record-wise could certainly be worse. That would be a disaster, especially given how, no offense to Auburn fans, or, I mean, I don't even care about talking about the athletic department. It seems like there's no patience over there. It very much seems like that. When you're taking over a roster that is not toward the top in the best conference in the country in terms of talent, they haven't been developed or utilized properly. They've gone through 2 coaching changes in like the previous 3 seasons, from Malzahn to Harsin, and now from Harsin to Freeze. Freeze changed coordinators after 2023. And, I mean, there's a reason why they got blanked by New Mexico State at home. It wasn't just because they were looking ahead to Alabama. It's because Auburn was not that good of a team last year. It was the same reason why they didn't have any opt-outs barely against Maryland, and Maryland just murdered them. They were not a good team last year. They were a team who was just well-coached and had enough talent, particularly at running back, and a stout enough defense and offensive line at times, to play Georgia and Alabama very competitively. And Jordan-Hare Stadium very much helped in that regard. But they've already lost 2 games at home. I can feel the impatience of the fan base. And losses to Cal and Arkansas starting off 0-1 in the 8-game SEC conference slate is just, it's not a good look. It really isn't. And I don't know what happens from here. Like, you can't start Hank Brown. He threw 3 interceptions against a defense that is not Tennessee, is not Georgia, is not Alabama. I don't even know if it's at Ole Miss's level. They're not at Texas's level. Probably not at Ole Miss's level. Not Texas A&M. Probably not Missouri. I mean, if you throw 3 interceptions against Arkansas, and it's not like you had a world beater performance against a terrible defense like New Mexico, you might as well be unplayable in the SEC if you are starting for the sake of winning games, not for practicing for the future. And Auburn is starting their quarterbacks to win games, not to win in the future, to win now. That's the whole mindset of the fan base and the mindset of everyone down there. There's no rebuilding. At least it doesn't seem like that's the mindset, although I think that's the reality. Thorne's the starter moving forward. He has to be. He has the most experienced. He's played better than Hank Brown in the sample size that we have. He ran Hugh Freeze's offense respectably well last season. And I know that the numbers from the Alabama A&M game are baked in, but he did pretty well against Arkansas. He did. And against Cal, he did pretty poorly, but not as poorly as Hank Brown did against Arkansas, honestly. You're probably looking at a quarterback to transfer in 2025, going all in the transfer portal, entering 2025 as well in the 2025 preseason. And at this point, what Auburn has to do is, try to beat Oklahoma, because that's a winnable game. Try to beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt, winnable games. Beat UL Monroe. I mean, if all those 4 games are won, that's a bowl team. That's 6-6. You're at least treading water. Try to beat Texas A&M. Could be a winnable game. Missouri could be a winnable game. At Georgia, at Alabama, they could be competitive, but I'm not going to say that Auburn has much of a chance, if any chance, in those games, even though they are rivalries. They're on the road. Those teams have improved compared to their prior selves, or at least stayed relatively the same. Missouri on the road will be difficult. Oklahoma at home and A&M at home will be difficult. And Kentucky and Vanderbilt at this point won't be pushovers for the Tigers either. Honestly, I see 4-8, 5-7, 6-6. I don't see anything above 500 for the Auburn Tigers this season. Thank you to my Patreon members for sponsoring this video and channel. I want to give a shout out to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman Patreon members at $25 a month. If you sign up as a Heisman for 6 months at $25 a month, you will get signed free College Football with Sam merchandise of your choice delivered to you, plus access to my weekly college football picks, straight up and also against the spread. You get access to the picks, just not the signed merchandise if you're an All-American member at $10 a month. Thanks to Chris Slade, Little OH, Ismar, Tyler Nye, and Chilton Cush for being All-American members. And if you just want your name featured at the end of every video with a shout-out, sign up as an all-conference member for $5 a month. Thank you, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Steele, Austin Christmas, and Shania Shakakrel for being all-conference members. The links to my merchandise store and my Patreon page, both ways to support the channel, are in the description and also down below in the pinned comment. And I also encourage you to join my Discord via the link in the description and also in the pinned comment. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.